Alright, welcome to Keith's Ramblings. Let's talk about World War One. Okay, first, let's talk about a couple battles that happened during World War One. We got the Battle of the Somme. Happened from July 1st to November 18th in 1916. Obviously near the River of Somme. A few things that we should take away from this battle are, one, it'll be known as one of the bloodiest battles to be recorded in history. Two, everyone involved suffered more than 1 million casualties. Three, it was a battle between the British and French army to fight, who joined forces to fight the German army, which had occupied northern France since they invaded in the beginning of World War One. The second battle, the Battle of the Somme. No, I already said the Battle of the Somme. The Battle of Bayeux Wood, which is one of the only battles the U.S. fought in, and they won. It was against the Germans. Who would have known? Yeah. And that's the thing, though. Like, all this going down, and who gets left with the bill? Germany. Germany gets left with the bill. Germany isn't even really... Oh my gosh. Germany got blamed for it. Germany got blamed bad. It wasn't even really their fault that they got blamed for it. Well, I mean, yeah. They did fight. They did kill a lot of people. But they didn't even start the fight. Like, this is the part I forgot to prepare for. I forgot to get my notes out for. Anyways, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Because I'm definitely not rambling. I know what I'm talking about. Good old Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife being assassinated. That's sort of the main spark. You know, the final proverbial push off the cliff that started this war. And Germany, was just noticing their alliances with Austria-Hungary, and we're like, "Hey, you can't kill him. We're gonna do stuff." Like the little kid and his best friend. His best friend gets pushed over, and you're like, "Hey, don't push him over." And you start fighting him, then you get in trouble for fighting, and they just walk away. Like, haha, you lost, sucker. I win. And that's sort of like what spirals the world into not goodness. Anyways, enough about Germany's sort of involvement and stuff like that. Let's talk about other things that led to the causing of this world war, which would be alliances. Right? There were a lot of alliances. By that I mean there was two main alliances. Those alliances were the Triple Alliance, which was between Austria-Hungary, Germany, and Italy. We'll talk about Italy later in what they do. And the Triple Entente, which was France, Great Britain, and Russia. Now, aside from the alliances, which Italy sort of ignored later, there was a lot of internal disruption with these countries. There was a lot of socialists having sort of these very violent strikes against the government in trying to get them to do stuff and get rights for people and be socialist and stuff like that. And these countries were like, crap. Crap. What are we gonna do? Guys, no, guys, stop. No! Guys, listen to us. We're the government. Guys, come on, guys. Listen to us, guys. We're the government. We know what we're doing. So then, like, when Franz got assassinated in Germany, decided that they're going to attack back, push back, this sort of gave those countries the sort of opportunity, if you will, to be like, hey, look, there's something we can all get behind, right? Fighting someone else. Let's do it. Let's get our country unified and focused on something that's not our internal problems. That actually didn't end too well for Russia, though. Russia, about halfway through the war, had that good old Russian Revolution. Some of you may remember a cool guy called Rasputin. He was, he died during that. Anyways, Russian Revolution was Russia wasn't very stable at the time, and Germany, being the way they are, had decided that in the beginning of the war, they were going to attack France, get France out of the way, they'll beat France, and then they can go over and focus their attack on Russia. But when Russia started moving their armies, Germany's like, crap. Looks like we have to fight both fronts, being the East and the Western front. And then Britain joins in this war because, well, in order for Germany to get into France, even though they share a border, they decided to go through good old neutral Belgium. Why not? It's not like you have your borders with France or anything like that, guys. Really? I mean, you can see why they did it. I mean, who would expect a attack from just coming straight down through? Anyways, let's see. The U.S., let's talk about the U.S. now. U.S. didn't really have much to do with this. I mean, yeah, they were sort of there. They got there in the end. All right, you know how I mentioned how Germany was that kid who always like got beat up? Well, he didn't get beat up. He got blamed for the fighting. Well, the U.S. in this sort of situation would be the kid who pulls over the adult, or the adult, you know. Although it's not really if the U.S. was the adult, it'd be the cool adult that everyone liked, even if they're the one who blamed you for starting trouble. They wouldn't want you to get into too much trouble, like, hey, stop it, dude. Just, calm down. All right, calm down. But then, after that, you'd have like that mean old lady adult walk up and be like, you kid. Mean old lady adult. The deep voice. You kid, you're gonna have to pay for that. Somehow I've turned into the Batman. What am I doing? Alright. So that's sort of what happens in the end of World War One. But I was talking about the U.S. The U.S. and their involvement in the war. They didn't really want to get involved in the beginning. I mean, they were a country sort of composed of immigrants from both Russia and Germany. So to go into a battle where Russia and Germany are on different sides of the battlefield wasn't a very good thing to do. But, like America is, they were still getting ready for it, using propaganda and the good old poster of when they finally decided what side they're going to be on, which was the Allied side, the fighting with Great Britain and France and Italy. Oh yes, did I mention? Italy decided to switch sides in the middle of the war. Around the time Russia dropped out of the war. That's interesting. So the battlefield at the middle of the war goes from Austria-Hungary, Germany, and Italy versus Russia, Great Britain, and France to the US, Great Britain, France, Italy versus Germany and Austria-Hungary. I don't think that's a fair battle, especially since Germany and Austria-Hungary are sort of in the middle of Europe, whereas everyone else is around them. Like, what's up, dude? You want to fight? Well, that's cool. We'll fight you. Anyways, the US had this one of the posters that really gets me, because later on there's a movie called King Kong. And this movie is very well known for having a huge ape capture, well, not capture, but like kidnap a blonde woman. Now, there's this war poster, war propaganda that the US had during World War I, telling people to help with fighting against the Germans, saying that we must defeat this brute. And it depicts a large ape carrying a blonde woman. I'm just saying. I think finally, this is going to run a little longer than 12 minutes. But anyways, there's going to be these 14 points that the great US president comes up with that sort of says, freedom for everyone, and don't destroy Germany because we don't want them to be destroyed. They became a pretty good economic power. Let's not destroy them with bills. As well as, hey, why don't we join together in a great force? But you see, this whole thing happens where, stuff goes down, and our U.S. president at the time is willing to do anything just for his 14th point, which was, hey, let's get a league together, And that's sort of what happens. He throws out, hey, let's have freedom everywhere, and don't destroy Germany for a league, which ends up being the League of Nations. And what happens, the funniest thing, the U.S. declines to join the League of Nations, even though the U.S. president is the one who made the League of Nations. Really? And finally, to end it off, let's talk about what war did change. Because even though the famous quote goes, war never changes, it sure as hell does. At least in the advancing technologies part. There was trench warfare, which was sort of new at the time. People weren't used to it because they weren't used to fighting for so long. Trench warfare is basically you're sort of at a standstill where people are like, I don't want to get shot. They don't want to get shot. So let's both start digging holes in the ground and standing in them and shooting at each other. And then sort of evolved into started using airplanes as well. Airplanes, big thing is flying in the sky. Yeah, well, they didn't used to look like that. These new things are like airplanes. They can only hold one person at a time. They started building them, making them being able to carry stuff. But they'd mainly use them for like reconnaissance, looking at the lines of where the people are. I just said that through a yawn. Then you had chemical warfare, which people decided we shouldn't use chemical warfare because that's really douchey. Only a butt would use chemical warfare because that's mean. Why would you do this? Stop doing it. And lastly, there was machine guns. They really overheated and did a lot of damage and stuff. And tanks. Tanks were a great thing. They could drive right over the barbed wire in no man's land and right over their trenches, then get grenades thrown in them and they blow up. Or get stuck in no man's land. They weren't very reliable then. That just about concludes it. This all sort of gets negated in World War II when Germany falls apart because, stuff happens. Germany gets mad because they have to pay all their debts, and people don't realize, well, America realized it, but the European powers didn't realize that, if you make someone pay for everything, they're going to go flat broke. And that's what happened. Their money pretty much became worthless, and it just went downhill from there. And then World War II happened. But that is for another time. Thank you. Goodbye.